G'day everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you may be able to tell, I'm trying out the Max Lens Mod 2.0 on the GoPro Hero 12, and today I'm going to show you how I set up my GoPro for mountain bike POV footage, and how the Max Lens compares to the standard lens. Let's go get into the setup, and then we'll take a look at some footage. I have been wanting to experiment with the Max Lens Mod for a little while, and they had the 2 on special with the new camera, and the benefit of the 2 over the 1 is that you can film in 4K. So I felt like the time was right to do that, and I'll show you guys how I set up my cameras. I see a lot of questions about that, about the audio, about the settings, and I'll just give you some general tips as well. So we'll get onto that in a second. But there is my existing camera. So Hero 11, I had an 8 before that. They're all pretty much the same. They just add a few new features as they're able to with each new generation. And the reason I went from the 8 to this is that they increased the sensor size. They had a smaller sensor size for a long time before they brought this camera out. So I thought that's a good time to move across. So probably the most obvious thing about my setup is that it's covered in these wind mufflers. And that's just to keep the wind noise down. You can use these foam muffler things, but I find that the stick-on, I think they're called dead cats, I believe they cut down more of the wind noise. I think a bit more gets through this kind of foamy stuff, or maybe around the outside. And then I also hate that once it's in this thing, you're kind of stuck, and if your camera crashes and you need to pull the battery, or your battery runs out, then you've got to unscrew your camera, you've got to stuff up your angle potentially, and yeah, then sort of get this on and off. So it's a much more user-friendly setup. Just generally, everything that I do with my filming, I try to make it as user-friendly as possible for myself, because the easier it is for me, the more likely I am to go out and film. So that's the reason why I use the visor mount. A lot of people use the chin mount, but I'm just way more likely to wear an open face helmet on many of my rides, and then I can just stick this under the visor and off I go. Another thing you might notice is these etchings on the, actually I don't know what that's called, the bit that goes into the GoPro mount, and that's how I can always get my angle the same. So I spend a bit of time trial and error trying to find the right angle, and then I just kind of grind those into the GoPro and to the mount. Just a few other little tips and tricks. So you need to have a sort of very fast SD card. That's actually my old one, and this one started to get some errors with a new software update. So I suspect, using the settings that I use, which is high bitrate, 10-bit color, and I was recording in 5.7K, that I'll drop that back down to 4K, that you may have to even go to the Extreme Pro. Since I've gone to this, I haven't had any recording errors, but yeah, you need a very fast SD card. Most people tend to recommend these SanDisk Extremes. Another tip is I always have a few batteries on hand. I don't use this dual battery charger at home, so I just come home, pop my batteries in there, and then I've always got charged batteries ready to go. I also number my batteries so I know which one I've started with. Another pro tip is these batteries do not like going through the wash. Battery 1 is no longer with us for that reason, so yeah, make sure you empty your pockets after each ride. That's just the mount that I use for most of my riding, so just a standard GoPro mount, and then it's stuck onto the helmet with, I think it's called Sugro, it's moldable glue. That's pretty much how I shoot kind of most of my riding, which brings me to the Max Lens Mod. I found with that under the visor setup that I would like to have a slightly wider field of view than what I get out of super view on the standard camera, but I hate how hyperview looks. It's way too distorted. So I'm hoping using the Max Lens Mod 2 that I'll be able to find a nice happy medium where it can fit a bit more in, but it won't be overly distorted. I really hate 360 cameras and the footage that comes off of them, so if it looks anything like that, then we'll just go back to the normal setup. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm looking forward to playing around with it. It's got a lot of sort of different settings, and actually even in the wide setting mode, it's got the same field of view as a regular camera in hyperview. So look, there's a fair bit to play around with. All right, so I'm going to open up the camera now and start sticking on the wind mufflers. Just there's a view of what they actually look like. These are off AliExpress. I bought a whole bunch of them. They come with this double-sided tape for them, and yeah, just stick it over every hole on the camera body. So there should only be kind of a mic up there and down there, and then there's the wind mic there, which I always have off. But I found if I don't cover the wind mic, and even these sort of, I think there's speaker holes in the bottom, that wind noise still gets into the camera. So I just suspect that wherever the microphones actually are, they can actually be disturbed by any wind getting in, so it's best to kind of cover up sort of every hole in the camera. Never done an unboxing video before. Yeah, I'm sure there's a better way to do that. I do like that the packaging is all recycled cardboard. Probably my 14th GoPro cable. Freshy. Do you love paying all this money for a camera and then having to make it look like that? Okay, there we have it. So just giving it a bit of a trim. I'm not actually going to do the two on the bottom just yet because that actually takes a little bit of trickery with the double-sided tape. But you can see I've given that quite a bit of a haircut. I'll probably end up trimming them down a little bit more because you often get just like a bit of that blowing up at first. They are like a little bit directional, so I always kind of point them away from the lens. But yeah, you inevitably get kind of a few stragglers that get in the way the first couple rides. So I might take a look at the lens mod now. This is all new to me. I'm getting a lot of respect for people who make those unboxing videos now. There it is there. I hear these are very easy to break and scratch because the lens is quite domed. I've never taken one of these off before. All right, we are on. Okay, so let's get it set up. I will go into Pro mode for the controls, set up the max lens. So I want to use the max lens 2.0. Okay, so I want to be shooting in 16 by 9. It's cool that you can do a 9 by 16. That might be fun to switch over to for any Instagram kind of videos. Resolution 4K. Frame rate, I always go for 30. 24 can look a bit faster, but you get more motion blur at the side. 30 I think looks quite crisp. 60 looks incredibly crisp, but it's twice the file size, so that's one reason why I don't use 60, but good for slow-mo, same for 120. I'm going to start with it in max super view. I think max hyperview would be way too distorted and weird, so I'm going to start in max super view. Usually I just use normal super view. I'm going to turn the horizon lock on. I'll probably play with both of those. Then I'm going to have max hyper smooth on as well. I don't like auto boost. It's really off-putting, just the crop changes. Normally I would just have hyper smooth to on. I wouldn't have it on boost without the lens mod. We'll see how the lens mod kind of works there. Pro tune. Okay, these settings are incredibly important. I'm sure you already know that. So my standard settings are minus 0.5 EV comp, a white balance of, where is it? 5,000, which is a little bit cool. I like my videos looking a little bit cool. ISO min, always on the min. ISO max, not on auto. 6400. That just changes how fast the shutter is allowed to go, and it's really helpful in low light to have it turned all the way up. Sharpness is medium. It's good that they're coming on medium sharpness now. They used to come on high sharpness and it was just like way too crispy. And then color, I always use natural unless it's super blown out. That's interesting. They don't have the bit rate or 10-bit color. I wonder if that's because of the max lens or not. All right, we'll find that out later. So it should be good to go. Let's get ready and go out for a ride.
Okay, first trail with the new Max Lens 2.0, and my first impressions are pretty good. The angle is a little low here, but even so, you can see more of the frame than with the normal setup, and it also looks nice and clear from that extra stabilization. There's not too much distortion of my arms at either side of the frame either. Now here's a clip from the same trail with the standard lens in hyperview. This footage looks fast to me, but there's a more noticeable warping and distortion at the edges of the frame. Now here's another clip in Superview, and unfortunately I only had chest mount footage on this trail, so it's not a direct comparison. It's been a while since I've used a chesty, and they really flatten out the trail to my eyes. Another interesting thing about these clips is that they are almost exactly the same length, but the feeling of speed is totally different between the three. Back to the lens mod now, and you can see how much steeper the trail looks by comparison. Now for that section with the standard lens in hyperview. And finally, superview on the chest mount.
I did a quick run of the max lens with horizon lock off, and I definitely prefer it on. With it off, the whole scene sort of tilts and looks crooked. I've never noticed that with the standard lens, so I think it could just be a max lens thing. Okay, onto some different trails now, and you can see that the low light performance of the max lens isn't great, and that badly affects the stabilization. I think the angle is pretty perfect here with the trail in the center of the frame and enough bike showing to see what it's doing. Now for the same section of trail with the standard lens in super view on the helmet mount, which was my regular setup. I think the biggest difference is that you just see less of the bike compared with the max lens. If you compare these two screens where my hands are in view, you can see that in the standard super view, my bars take up about half the screen, while in max super view, it's more like 2/3. It's not a huge difference, but I think that's how they strike the balance between having a good field of view and not having too much distortion. Okay, now for some follow cam footage, and this time we'll start with the standard lens. It's by no means bad, but it can be harder to keep the rider in frame when the trail goes up and down.
Oh!
And now with the max lens mod, not a huge difference, but it seems a little bit easier to keep the subject in the frame.
Wow, that's a good line.
For the last comparison, we'll hit some jumps, and again, I'll start with the standard lens.
Oh, that's deep. So's that. This won't be. Oh, kind of made it.
Now for that exact same run with the max lens. I like them both, and there probably isn't a huge difference between them. Let me know in the comments if you picked up on anything that I missed. Another feature of the new GoPro is the 9x16 vertical mode, and I've been using this heaps with the max lens for filming YouTube shorts and clips for Instagram, and I've been getting a lot of questions about those videos. Previously, I would crop a regular clip and then scale the width down to fit more of the original in the vertical frame. This dedicated view looks so much better. There's way more of the bike in shot, and it still looks really fast, something that you lose when you crop a widescreen video. I only wish you could choose this setting after you film. Right now you have to put the GoPro in this mode before you shoot, but I know that other cameras will let you choose your aspect ratio in the software after you film. Maybe this is something GoPro will add in a later update? We'll have to wait and see. So things have been going pretty well then. Well, yes, I really love the footage that the camera makes with the lens mod, but there's been a downside. Remember that I said that these are easy to scratch? Well, yeah, I've already put a number of scratches on my lens, and I don't even know how that happened. This is a pretty expensive little add-on, and if it's so easily damaged, I don't know if I'm prepared to buy a replacement every couple of months. I'm going to try and be way more careful when transporting the camera, and hopefully I don't need to buy a replacement anytime soon. That's it for my thoughts on the max lens mod after a month or so of use. It's not perfect, but I really like the footage so far, and I plan to keep using it, at least until I break it. Thanks for watching, hopefully you found this video useful, and I'll catch you next time.